making such a basic mistake. How long do you think you've been with the company?
The manager seemed to mistake the documents I processed on behalf of a junior for my own work. I reluctantly made a formal apology. "I'm terribly sorry. I'll be more careful in the future."
There won't be a next time.
That day, I ended up submitting my resignation to the manager. It was sad to leave a place I had finally found as my own, but I had no regrets. Now, I could really get away from that person. A week after resigning, the manager and I bumped into each other at sushi restaurant.
What a coincidence.
She is clearly in a good mood, anticipating the high-end sushi. Unaware of who was waiting in the private room, she walked down the corridor beside me.
Speaking of which, why are you wearing a suit if you quit? Oh, right, you're job hunting, that stuff.
I wasn't thinking about getting back at the manager at all, but for everyone's sake, I returned her smile with determination. "I've just been appointed as the new president, ma'am. I'll be sure to handle things strictly as your superior from now on." I slowly opened the sliding door to the private room. In front of a top-notch sushi chef's presentation, I forced a polite smile. "My name is Sean Turner. I'm an ordinary person with no particular talents, but my father is the president of a large company that can afford to invite famous sushi chefs to our home. Despite inheriting my father's intellect and graduating from Harvard University, I stumbled during elementary school entrance exams and have never managed to catch up. Working at a subsidiary of my father's company, I'm still not even a senior staff member at 39. Naturally, my parents have never acknowledged me, favoring only my brother."
At some point, you need to at least make senior staff, or should I just announce you're my son?
My father casually mentioned while eating an eel sushi. He always did this. Behind the scenes, he exerted pressure, and during my school years, teachers treated me specially. Once, I deliberately answered a test incorrectly to see what would happen, only for that test to be the only one not to have retake. I've understood since I was a child that I'm not meant to be treated specially. Every time I received different treatment from other students, I felt miserable. In this regard, my current company was comfortable. Initially, I tried to get a job at a company unrelated to my father to get away from him, but he opposed it. Under the condition that our relationship wouldn't be disclosed, I joined my current company. I went through the same interview process as everyone else, and no one knows I'm the son of the parent company's president. For the first time, I feel like I've found a place where I belong in this company, where they give me a fair evaluation by saying, "You're not cut out to be a chief." I'm sorry, but could you please not disclose that we're related, Dad? I think it would cause trouble for you too.
He's right. If people found out someone like him is your son, it'd lower your reputation.
My brother added, causing my mother to chuckle.
That's true. Let's focus on eating since you are here.
My father said, not allowing me to leave my seat, forcing me to continue eating tasteless high-end sushi.
I'll be taking over as the head of this sales department, starting today. My name is Diana Johnson. With me here, I assure you we can turn the performance around. Just make sure to follow my instructions.
Today, a woman named Diana Johnson, who is about 10 years older than me, has been assigned here from the New York headquarters. Our company, primarily a supermarket, wholesales machinery for processing meat and other foods. Although a subsidiary, our company is large, with the New York headquarters, a branch in Chicago, and where I work, the equivalent to the Houston branch. Recently, our branch's performance has been declining, so we were informed that a competent person would be sent from headquarters. I had hoped for someone decent to arrive, but the initial greetings from the new arrivals stirred anxiety among everyone. And it wasn't just Diana who had been assigned.
I'm Merica Glover, and like Diana, I'll be serving as the section chief in the sales department, starting today. Please look forward to working with me.
Standing next to Diana, she appeared considerably younger than me. Her greeting was standard, but her facial muscles barely moved. She seemed almost android-like.
She is a very capable person. Originally, I was supposed to come here alone, but I insisted she join me. Make sure to follow her instructions as well as mine.
Diana declared, running the show from the first day. She had young employees fetch her coffee whenever it ran out and called the person responsible for each difficult negotiation to explain themselves in front of everyone. Erica was somewhat better, but she had her issues too.
These numbers are in full-width characters, not half-width. Please resubmit.
Her nitpicking meant that reports that used to be submitted smoothly were now often returned, hindering work progress.
Isn't there anyone competent here? It's frustrating how much we have to carry the load.
In just one day, my workplace, which was supposed to be my sanctuary, turned into something as oppressive as my family home. A month after Diana's arrival, everyone was exhausted. The younger employees, in particular, were making mistakes out of fear of what could happen if they didn't secure contracts, often losing deals that were near completion. During a break, a colleague half-jokingly wondered aloud if someone collapsing would finally make the headquarters realize the true nature of these two, but it was a real possibility. I decided to offer myself up. Diana, at this rate, someone might collapse. I understand the need to improve performance, but could you reconsider your approach?
And what if they do collapse?
Her question caught me off guard, and I was unable to respond.
In sales, numbers are everything. If someone collapses, it means they weren't cut out for this.
Diana's response was calm. It's the tone of someone who thinks anyone not as excellent as my father doesn't matter. There are various types of people in the world. As a supervisor, it's your job to identify the best way to teach each individual and nurture them. If someone collapses, it means you have failed in your duty, making you the one who is not competent. Choosing words that I hoped would provoke her, Johnson reacted as expected, scattering documents across the floor in anger.
I was chosen for this position because I am competent. Those who are not should grovel and pick up these papers.
I collected the papers while being looked down upon by her. I didn't feel humiliated, thanks to my upbringing. Thinking I couldn't possibly refer to Erica as an android, she knelt beside me to help. I was completely unaware, so I was surprised and let out a strange voice.
I'll assist.
You are kind. See, hurry up and pick them up.
Maybe Erica was inherently kind, and I regretted thinking of her as an android.
I just need to check some of these documents immediately.
She looked at me directly.
Your unnecessary remarks have wasted our time. Please reflect on this.
Even Diana seemed taken aback, unable to sit down with the documents Erica handed her. Though it was an unexpected turn of events, focusing Diana's bullying on me did succeed in reducing the burden on other employees. Feeling relieved, a junior colleague approached me with a pale face.
What should I do?
Erica was right next to us, and though I hesitated, it seemed there was no time to move elsewhere, so I listened there.
We've received a call saying the machinery we delivered was wrong. I've also made a mistake in the estimate, so they are quite upset with me.
I had anticipated that mistakes would be induced by Diana's management style. I tried to hand him an open can of coffee in consolation, but missed.
Did you just hang up? How angry were they? Please tell me more.
Erica pressed him, and he looked like he was about to cry. Please, let's leave it at that. I'll handle the rest.
No, this is what supervisors are for. I will take care of it.
She quickly checked the client's information stored in the system and made a call. At first, there were shouts of anger, but gradually, they turned into laughter.
This should resolve the issue. We'll deliver what was originally supposed to be sent out sooner than usual, so please help, Sean. You're dismissed now.
The junior deeply bowed to her. Perhaps she wasn't a bad person after all, just different. I was relieved that the situation had been resolved, but the story didn't end there. When the documents were recreated with my name on them, Diana, mistaking me for the person in charge, called me in.
Making such a basic mistake. Really? How long do you think you've been with the company? You're not a new employee.
Erica might have intervened if she were here, but unfortunately, she was out apologizing to the client for the delivery mistake along with the junior. I'm terribly sorry. I'll be more careful in the future.
There won't be a next time.
Johnson smirked and pointed to her computer.
There's a template for a resignation letter in the shared folder, in case you don't know how to write one.
If I didn't try it, the junior would likely be next. Without hesitation, I downloaded the resignation letter and submitted it to Johnson before the two returned. Leaving a place I had finally found was sad, but I had no regrets. Now, I could truly get away from my father. I even thought I should have done this sooner. A week after resigning, thinking I wouldn't be found out so soon, I was called by my father. I might be told to work for him this time. With a heavy heart, I headed to the sushi restaurant run by the chef who had visited our house the other day. In the private room I was led to, there were my father and, surprisingly, Erica. Why are you here? Upon revealing her true identity, I was astonished.
That's the situation. I'm counting on you.
Despite not being the type of conversation to have while eating, my father didn't stop eating his sushi.
You should start eating too, Sean. The nicey one will be here soon.
Can I go to the bathroom now?
Go ahead.
Thinking it was going to be a long conversation, I almost bumped into a woman on my way back from the bathroom. Sorry.
No, my apologies. Oh, You must be Sean.
It was Diana.
What a coincidence. I'm here to have a meal with Erica today.
Unaware of everything, Diana was in a good mood, looking forward to enjoying high-end sushi. Do you always go to places like this with Erica?
Now that you mention it, it's our first time at a sushi place. More importantly, are you okay? Can you afford it? This place is quite expensive.
The chef at the counter looked at us curiously. What is this woman talking about? Seemed to be written all over his face. Thank you for your concern. My father will be covering the bill, so it's all good.
I couldn't bear the thought of having my dad treat me to sushi at this age.
Being able to dish out such backhanded comments so effortlessly was impressive in a way. It really was going to be a long day. May I go say hello to Erica?
Sure, she's in the furthest private room. I'll show you inside. It's supposed to be a room reserved for special guests only.
Why wasn't Diana curious about how Erica managed to make a reservation? Walking down the corridor with Diana, who had no idea who was waiting in the private room, I smiled despite myself.
By the way, why are you wearing a suit if you've quit your job? Oh, right, your job hunting must be tough.
I hadn't thought about getting back at her, but for everyone's sake, I faced her with a winning smile. I've just been appointed as the new president, Diana. I've been under your care as a subordinate, but from now on, I'll be dealing with you strictly as your superior. As we talked, I slowly opened the sliding door to the private room.
Wow, what are you talking about? Have you become so unable to find a job that you've started living in a fantasy?
It's not a delusion. You should really take a good look at the reality in front of you.
Erica interjected, leaving Diana looking utterly baffled. Given that Diana had always favored her as a junior, her confusion was understandable.
The man standing next to me is the president of our parent company, and Sean here is his son.
Sean is the president's son. That's impossible.
And why would I lie about that? Do you think I have any reason to benefit from such a lie?
It was clear that deceiving people for pleasure wasn't in her nature. Diana seemed to come to the same conclusion and calmed down. By the way, this Erica is my father's secretary.
Erica is the secretary. What's going on?
I was just as confused as her when I heard the entire story. My father had grown suspicious when he learned that over 10 people had resigned from a subsidiary's sales department in a single month without any clear reason or accountability. Especially since Diana hadn't been demoted or transferred despite the rumors reaching even the president of the parent company. To prevent any future trouble, he sent Erica to investigate.
Being seconded from the parent company to a subsidiary and then being assigned to Houston branch. Did I do something wrong?
Erica, it turns out, was an excellent secretary, so much so that my father felt indebted to her. Finally, my father spoke up.
To think that you were dating the president of that company and had everything swept under the rug. In today's world, your treatment of your subordinates could easily become a scandalous article. It wouldn't be strange for it to affect our parent company.
I was just trying to educate my subordinates for their own good.
The idea of her claiming to educate anyone was unacceptable to me. Education, what you did was discard anyone who couldn't achieve the outcomes you envisioned. Don't ever use the word education again. Well, you and your boyfriend will be demoted, so it's unlikely you'll have subordinates to manage anyway. She must have been really frustrated to be confronted so boldly by me. Or perhaps thinking she was going to be demoted anyway, she didn't care anymore and revealed her true nature in front of the president of the parent company.
Must be nice being the president's son, getting special treatment. Until recently, you couldn't even become a chief, and now you're suddenly the president of a subsidiary.
If this had been said to the old me, I would have despaired, feeling trapped by my father's shadow forever. But now, it is different. I was filled with confidence. I won't deny the special treatment, but I've been observing the company as an ordinary employee. I believe I understand better than anyone what everyone is looking for.
So what? You've always just followed orders from those above you, never achieving significant sales results. How could someone like you possibly be suitable to be a president?
Erica stopped me from responding.
Sean is the right person to be president. You may not know, but whenever Junior couldn't meet their goals, Sean would give up his own projects close to contract to help them, advising on how they could achieve their targets. Since he was giving away his projects, it's natural his own performance would appear lower. Plus, having observed his work, his processing speed is exceptionally fast.
She explained to Diana, just as she had to me.
Sean has always underestimated his abilities, leading to his talents not being fully recognized. In reality, he is very capable.
She had made the same case to my father when reporting on Diana. It led him to reconsider his view of me as inferior to my accomplished elder brother. As a result, I was appointed the new president. The notion of being president seemed impossible at first, but being praised by Erica, who I knew wouldn't just flatter me, made it feel within reach.
Diana, there's something else we need to discuss.
What now?
Diana looked at Erica with a mix of pity and disbelief.
Houston branch's performance hasn't actually been declining. A major supermarket client went bankrupt, reducing revenue, but the number of new contracts has actually increased from last year.
Then why was I sent to Houston?
As she spoke, she seemed to realize the truth. She began to make a call, likely to her boyfriend.
Your boyfriend abandoned you. He sensed the parent company's investigation and got rid of you under the pretext of fixing the Tokyo headquarters sales department.
There was no response on the phone. Diana had been utterly discarded.
You said you've been too busy to contact him since arriving in Houston. You should have realized something was wrong then.
Diana, her face turning pale, stormed out of the restaurant. There's a showdown waiting at the Tokyo headquarters, but that's none of my concern now. I gulped down my now cold tea in one go. The environment has changed so dramatically in the past few hours that my brain can't keep up. Then, my father adds another shock.
Sean, I'm sorry for not really seeing you until now.
He left without waiting for my response. Being acknowledged by my father is a first in my memory. Already at my limit, I couldn't hold back any longer. Tears start flowing one after another.
Let's take it a little easy.
Thinking she's offering to stay until I stop crying, I say thank you only to be met with a puzzled look.
The president left quite a bit of money, And since we both have been troubled by that man, let's recuperate some of it.
Watching her order the most expensive items as if to make a point, my tears stopped, and I found myself laughing before I knew it. Later, the board and I decided to dismiss the president. Diana ended up working as a regular employee at Houston branch. My well-educated juniors in the sales department are reportedly taking good care of her education, whether it's from the humiliation or the shock of being abandoned by her boyfriend. I heard she's become a shadow of her former beautiful self.
It's been about a month since Diana was demoted.
Upon hearing Erica's words, I truly realized how quickly time flies. I became president shortly thereafter. To help with my likely anxieties, my father made her my secretary. I always knew she was capable in the sales department, but her skills as a secretary are exceptionally high, preparing things in advance and greatly assisting me. Yeah, it's already been a month. She seemed unable to hide her irritation at my heartfelt muttering.
I didn't mean to get nostalgic about the president. I was thinking we should check if Johnson hasn't caused any problems lately.
Oh, right. When would be a good time?
Let's do it next Tuesday.
Next Tuesday is my brother's birthday. I hold back a retort, knowing it would come back to me tenfold. My brother liked Erica and had been quite forward with her. When she was appointed as my secretary, his frustrated expression was a bit of revenge for me. As she and I spent time together, our relationship evolved. I had thought she never showed her emotions, but as we grew closer, she began to share more of her expressive side. During the challenging times right after I became president, she supported me, and before I knew it, I had fallen for her. Realizing I had fallen for the same person, as my brother made me laugh. I offer Erica a box of chocolates from a shop I like.
What's this all of a sudden? You didn't do something wrong, did you?
She takes the bag of chocolates warily but with care. Her caution is warranted. Turns out I ended up like my brother. I'm giving this to you with that in mind, so if it bothers you, just say so. We can go back to just being president and secretary. It's not a bother, she replied, placing the bag gently on her desk. Since my sister's fiancé's father, whom I'll call Theo, raised his champagne glass, I too picked up a glass.
What should we toast to? Perhaps to Henry's lack of discernment.
At Theo's words, I, my sister Caitlin, and her fiancé Henry were all struck with astonishment. Theo slowly looked at our faces and smiled with satisfaction. Then, he suddenly threw the contents of his champagne glass at me. Huh? Champagne poured over my head, dripping down from my brand new suit.
Poor guy. Make sure you clean up nicely before you leave.
While Caitlin and Henry were speechless, only the laughter of Ellie, Henry's mother, filled the room.
I'm sorry for making you feel bad, Noah.
Caitlin said that to me in the cab on the way back. I'm touched by her concern, even in such times. She's such a sweet sister. Don't worry about me, Caitlin. Let's think about what makes you happiest. I want to do everything I can as a brother. I vowed firmly in my heart. Looking out the window, I began to plan for the next day. The next morning, when I was at work, I called the bank at exactly 9 a.m. I asked to speak to the person in charge and proposed what I had been considering since the day before. I'm thinking of closing my account. My name is Noah. I'm a 35-year-old bachelor. I lost my parents early on and lived hand in hand with my sister Caitlin, who is 6 years younger than me. She was finally getting married. That day, when I returned home from work, Caitlin was cooking dinner. Since there had been a lack of communication about it, I expressed my astonishment, which made Caitlin laugh heartily. When Caitlin was still a student, she would prepare dinner when I returned from work, but now she has moved out, and we live separately. We kept in touch occasionally, but it had been a while since I had eaten my sister's cooking. As I enthusiastically praised the food, Caitlin casually mentioned about it, as if talking about the weather for the next day.
I'm thinking about getting married.
I nearly choked on my soup. What? Married? You, Caitlin?
Who else would it be?
She replied, laughing at my disheveled state.
He's a classmate from college. We've been thinking about tying the knot.
You mean he proposed?
Yes, well.
Caitlin's shy response made it clear that this was not a joke or a lie, but a fact. Congratulations. I said that while I was half dazed, and Caitlin burst into laughter seeing my face.
You look so surprised. Are you?
Of course I am. After dinner, Caitlin and I talked late into the night about her partner and the future. The conversation never seemed to end. Unusually, Caitlin spent the night at my place that day. After talking for a while, Caitlin said she was sleepy and went to the bedroom, leaving me alone and unable to sleep. My mind inadvertently wandered back to the day Caitlin was born. It was a hot summer day when Caitlin arrived. I was in the first grade of elementary school that summer, feeling a bit restless with summer vacation around the corner. The atmosphere at home that day was more unsettled than usual. In the morning, my mom sent me off as usual, but after lunch, my dad came to pick me up from school, saying, "She's born." We rushed to the hospital, and there was Caitlin behind the glass. Among the row of babies with red, wrinkled faces, I couldn't tell which one was my sister until my dad pointed her out, but once he did, she seemed to have the cutest face of them all. I can still remember the feeling when her tiny, moist hand firmly gripped my finger. It was a sense of happiness, like my heart was wrapped in a warm blanket. The smell of milk on her breath, her unbelievably tiny nails, even her surprisingly strong kicks, I found them all adorable. After my sister was born, our house became noisier, but it was a warm and fun daily life. This fascinating and cute creature called a baby grew up surprisingly fast. It started walking, talking, and breaking my stuff. My sweet little sister eventually began to sass me. Suddenly, our happy family days came to an end. It was a winter day when I was in 7th grade and Caitlin had just started elementary school. Our parents had an accident. That day, cold rain started in the evening, leaving us at home working on school assignments. Mom went to pick up Dad, who had forgotten his umbrella at the train station. The train station is about a 5-minute walk from my home. We heard the sound of ambulance sirens, but didn't realize they were for our parents until later. Apparently, it was a car accident caused by a slippery road. We were told it all happened so fast that there was no time to feel pain, but the reality of losing both parents at once didn't quite hit us. It felt like being thrown into complete darkness, a terrifying uncertainty. From that day on, We had to live as just the two of us. As minors, we couldn't live by ourselves and ended up being taken in by relatives. I spent the next 3 years there until I graduated middle school, and after entering high school, Caitlin and I started living just the two of us. I worked part-time at a small local company while attending high school and became a full-time employee upon graduation. The company, a battery manufacturer, was small with about 10 employees, as Mike, the owner, started it after turning 50. I will never forget the favor of being employed. Not only did Mike hire me when I was still a kid, but he also raised me to be a professional. I believe that I was able to send my younger sister to university while also using my parents' insurance money and scholarship programs because I had an understanding owner in Mike. After we started living together, Caitlin would cook dinner when I returned from work. She had her school studies, so I tried to do housework as much as possible, but I admittedly relied on her cooking skills. Balancing studies and household chores must have been hard, but her presence was always a great help for me, whether it's when I was tired or when work didn't go well. Without Caitlin, I couldn't have persevered like this. I would probably have been stuck in a gloomy state after our parents died. Of course, I still wish our parents could see how we are now. But we've managed to move forward because of Caitlin's presence. Now, she is getting married. The sister I raised like a parent is about to find happiness with the person she chose. As a brother, there is no greater joy. Recently, Caitlin mentioned that she wanted me to formally meet her fiancé's parents and join them for dinner. Thinking my usual cheap suit wouldn't cut it, I bought a nice one I wouldn't normally afford and prepared for the day. When I arrived at the restaurant, Caitlin and her fiancé welcomed me. The young man, who introduced himself as Henry, was extremely nervous, stumbling over his own name several times. At first, I was nervous too, but it was amusing seeing how tense he was, and I couldn't help laughing when he stuttered for the 5th time.
Come on, don't laugh at him, Noah. Henry's been nervous all morning.
Sorry, I just couldn't help it. Seeing me laughing so hard, Henry said in an almost fading voice, "I'm sorry. But I'm glad to see Caitlin's partner is such a nice guy. I was secretly worried it might be someone really intimidating." Hearing my candid thoughts, Henry finally relaxed.
That's reassuring to hear. I feel relieved now.
Next to him, Caitlin smiled, lowering her eyebrows.
I told you there was no need to be so nervous.
But you've been working hard since high school, and you even managed to send Caitlin to college. She said she respects you a lot, you know.
Hey, don't talk about that here.
Caitlin, blushing, stopped Henry. I couldn't hide my surprise that she had spoken so highly of me. Caitlin.
Come on, stop it. Today is just for introductions, so don't look at me with those emotional eyes.
Seeing Caitlin clearly embarrassed, Henry smiled kindly. I could tell these two would make it. Their mutual care was palpable to me.
By the way, have you heard from your dad and mom?
Caitlin shifted the topic, her face still a bit red.
Not yet. I wonder what's up.
Can't get in touch with them, I asked him, and he apologized with an embarrassed look.
Yes, I'm really sorry for keeping you waiting. I've been trying to call them, but I just can't get through.
No, it's fine by me. I don't have any other plans and I can wait, but it does get worrying when there's no contact.
I really apologize for the inconvenience, especially since you arrived early. Let me try calling them again.
Just as Henry was about to step outside,
It's starting to rain too. Just great.
Seriously, we should have driven here. Henry said the restaurant didn't have parking.
Suddenly, the door to the private room at the restaurant opened, and two people who seemed to be Henry's parents entered. Henry had told me their names are Theo and Ellie.
Dad, Mom.
Henry, what's with this place? It was so hard to find, and we got wet. Why did you choose here? Was it her idea?
We chose it together, but
Henry stumbled over his words as he was immediately criticized for the restaurant choice.
Sorry for the inconvenience with the location, but it's actually well known for its delicious food.
Caitlin tried to interject in support, but Ellie merely glanced at her and didn't respond. As if Caitlin wasn't there at all, she turned to Henry and spoke.
Anyway, no more of this place. If there's a next time, make sure it's somewhere easier to get to.
Does next time mean the next dinner? Normally, I would take it that way, but the coldness in the voice made me wonder if it was a dig at another marriage. Undeterred, Caitlin continued speaking to Ellie and Theo.
Thank you for coming today, despite your busy schedules. My name is Caitlin.
Ellie sighed loudly enough for Caitlin to hear and continued without responding, turning back to Henry.
Henry, who's this?
Her gaze then shifted to me, standing a bit behind.
This is Caitlin's older brother. I've told you right. Caitlin's family lost their parents early, and her brother has been like a parent to her.
Henry himself seemed bewildered by Ellie's behavior. Hearing Henry's explanation, Ellie murmured disinterestedly, and then looked at me.
So you're the brother. Where do you work now? You went straight into work after high school, right? Couldn't find a better job, I suppose?
Well, yes, I got a job at a manufacturer near our home. Faced with her blatant malice, I was at a loss for words.
Oh, we see that a lot in our line of work. Small companies that can't produce much but still come begging for loans. They should just shut down already. Both of us work at the bank, so we don't want our son struggling with money. It must be tough being poor, right?
You work at a bank?
Yes, there's a branch near this restaurant. Actually, our area of responsibility is a bit further south though, but if you need a loan, I suggest going to a different bank. We'd rather not deal with losses.
I remembered there was a major bank branch near the restaurant's closest station. Our company had dealings with them, but to avoid further issues, I decided to stay silent. Sure, I'll consider that.
Mom, please, don't be rude to Noah and Caitlin. And why were both of you so late anyway?
Henry rightly pointed out. After all, both of them were late without even a word of apology.
That's what I'm saying, right? We got lost because the place was hard to find.
Theo finally spoke up, having been silent until now.
But still, a call would have been nice. I tried calling several times.
We came all this way for you, and that's how you speak to us.
Theo suddenly raised his voice at Henry's words. Henry, looking shocked, fell silent.
Let's just drop it. I'm hungry. Can we start the meal?
I felt like asking whose fault it was that the meal was delayed but remained quiet. More concerning was Caitlin. Ignored by Ellie, she looked down with a pale face. When Theo called the waiter, the food was brought out as if they had been waiting for the signal. Without proper introductions, the appetizers and aperitifs were served. Caitlin sat next to me, with Theo across from us, followed by Ellie and Henry. Theo raised his champagne glass, so I also took mine.
What should we toast to? Perhaps to Henry's lack of discernment.
At Theo's words, Caitlin, Henry, and I were astonished. Theo looked at our faces slowly and smiled with satisfaction. Then, he deliberately poured his champagne over me. Champagne poured over my head, dripping from my newly bought suit.
Clean up nicely before you leave, poor man.
Ellie laughed while Caitlin and Henry were speechless. Wiping the dripping champagne, I silently grabbed my jacket and walked to the private room's door. "Excuse us." With that, I pulled Caitlin's hand and left the restaurant. Caitlin didn't speak. She just kept looking down. As we exited, Henry ran after us.
I'm so sorry.
Henry apologized earnestly. Henry.
I never fought. I'm truly sorry.
Henry's shoulders shook slightly as he continued to apologize. I saw tears fall to the ground.
Caitlin, I'm really sorry.
Henry, for today, I'll take Caitlin home. You should go back to your place. Think about what you'll do next with Caitlin. Henry seemed resolved by my words.
My mind is already made up.
Tears ran down his cheeks as he looked at me with determined eyes. Understanding him, I simply said, "I see," and walked away. Henry watched us until we got into the cab. Caitlin was the most hurt today, but Henry, being their son, must have been deeply affected too. I was more upset about the young couple being hurt than what was done to me. I can't let this go. I decided to make a call to confirm something with Mike. He promptly agreed, leaving only the paperwork for the next day. But that wouldn't heal Caitlin's emotional wounds. Sitting silently next to me, looking out the window, I wondered what to say to Caitlin. Before I could find the words, Caitlin spoke.
I still want to marry Henry.
Hearing her, I nodded. Henry's a good guy, huh? Has he always been like this? The time before Henry's parents arrived was enjoyable for me. I saw Caitlin's expressions that I don't usually get to see, and Henry's loving gaze as he looked at her. I sincerely wished for their happiness.
Yay, he's a bit timid but sincere and kind. Henry wasn't too keen on introducing me to his parents initially. After meeting them today, I kind of understood why. They are so different from him.
What did Henry say about his parents?
He said that since he was a child, they've always interfered in his social life, criticizing things like lack of money or family background.
I see. I had my suspicions, but it's still surprising that Henry, raised by such parents, turned out to be such a kind and good person.
Henry thinks their way of thinking is wrong. He said he wants to value people's character over their family background and doesn't want to judge anyone based on their financial status.
That's evident when you look at Henry. He must have gone through a lot of internal struggles. Realizing the wrongful actions of the people who raised him must have been difficult, even if he understood them. Children are easily influenced by their parents, for better or worse. Yet, Henry managed to think for himself and grew into a person who cares for others. I think that's truly remarkable.
Yay, it was probably hard for him to talk about parent troubles with me since we don't have parents. But everyone's experiences are different. Having parents can bring its own set of troubles too.
Definitely. I never experienced such overbearing behavior from my parents, but growing up with that kind of treatment must have been tough. Caitlin, make sure you keep being kind to Henry.
Yeah, I will. I wonder if Henry is okay.
Despite Caitlin herself having a terrible experience, she seemed more worried about Henry. And I felt Henry was probably more concerned about Caitlin at the moment.
Also, sorry for making you feel bad, Noah.
She was even worried about me. My sister is truly kind. It's all right. Let's focus on finding the best way for you to be happy, Caitlin. As a brother, I want to do everything I can for her. I firmly vowed in my heart. Looking out the window, I began to plan for the next day. The next morning, I made a call to the bank at exactly 9 a.m. After being transferred to the person in charge, I proposed what I had been considering since the previous day. I'm thinking about closing my account. I joined a small battery manufacturer in the corner of the battery industry about 20 years ago, the year I started high school. Initially, I was only a part-timer, working a few hours after school, mostly handling paperwork and other menial tasks. In exchange, Mike had me read a ton of books on electrochemistry and lithium-ion batteries. Despite wanting to work more, I was told to prioritize my studies. Furthermore, I was promised not to worry about money and to discuss any financial issues openly. As a child, Mike probably saw me with parental affection. At that time, our company was small, producing standard lithium-ion batteries, but Mike was already moving towards producing high-performance batteries for hybrid electric vehicles. By the time I graduated from high school and joined the company full-time, we were just beginning to seriously launch these batteries. Lithium-ion batteries, unlike disposable alkaline batteries, can be recharged and used multiple times. Their demand, used in not just cars, but also smartphone batteries and various other applications, was expected to grow and enter a much larger market. Mike originally liked the field and graduated from the College of Engineering, studying electrochemistry. Moreover, he even went as far as getting his PhD. However, coming from a family that owned a resort hotel, he reluctantly took over the family business due to his parents' opposition. Finally, after turning 50, he managed to pass the business on. Then, he started enjoying his second life. Even though he's now over 70, he has never given up on his dream, saying, "Chemistry continues to evolve, so I need to study the next generation sodium-ion batteries." Having watched Mike since I was a child, I have immense respect for him and have always wanted to repay his kindness. Thanks to following his advice and studying electricity, I was able to contribute to the development of high-performance lithium-ion batteries, and the company grew significantly. At one point, Mike, during his time managing the hotel, was approached by a battery manufacturer's president he knew, proposing a management merger. Business integration is the process of unifying the decision-making body while keeping each company intact. Unlike a merger, it has the advantage of preserving the existing legal entity, maintaining independence and autonomy. The company, much older than ours, was impressed by Mike's ever-challenging spirit and thus approached us with a proposal. Initially, business integration, unlike mergers or strategic alliances, is said to take time to build a cooperative relationship. However, since the Mike already knew each other, there was a significant amount of knowledge and skill sharing and workshops conducted between the companies, leading to much better performance than either had anticipated. This merger significantly expanded our company's scale. When the business changes from the management merger had settled down and the company was doing well, I was suddenly called in by Mike. Although he often invited me to dinner before, he had been busy with the merger, so it had been a while since we met. Usually, we'd go to a cheap bar near work. But that day, with Mike's invitation, we went to a luxurious high-end restaurant. There was no menu, just a continuous flow of delicious dishes. We chatted about recent work and my sister, among other casual topics. Then, a thick steak was placed in front of me. Its inside was a beautiful pink, melting in my mouth instantly. While I was relishing what I thought was the best meat I'd ever tasted, Mike put down his wine glass and asked,
Noah, ever thought about becoming the owner?
"Huh?" Shocked by his words, I accidentally swallowed the bite I had just put in my mouth without really tasting it. Even now, I regret wasting such a moment.
My son took over the hotel, so there's no successor for this side of the business.
But why me?
You've been with our company since you were a kid. You're practically like a son to me, aren't you?
But, I mean, I appreciate how you've treated me like a son, but what about the long-time employees like Sarah or Liam? I hastily mentioned the names of my senior colleagues. The number of people who have been here since the founding has significantly decreased.
They're getting on in years and prefer research over dealing with such hassles. Personally, I'd rather have the younger ones take charge. You're the youngest among the veterans.
Even if he made it sound reasonable, being the youngest was obvious since I'd been there since my teens. Was he really considering me for this significant role just because of that? But I don't know anything about running a business. You only gave me books on batteries.
That's the point. You knew nothing about batteries at first, right? And look at you now.
Well, I've been here for 20 years. Thrown into a team of graduate scholars, I learned through tears. The first step in creating high-performance lithium-ion batteries was increasing their energy density, starting with improvements to cathode and anode materials and electrolytes and cell structures, but focusing too much on that could compromise safety and lifespan. Lithium-ion batteries are prone to fires caused by short circuits between the cathode and anode due to overcharging or discharging. I've been dedicated to researching how to make them safer and more efficient, but if I become the owner, I won't be able to do this kind of work anymore, right? I was just getting into studying solid-state lithium-ion batteries.
You're studying solid state. I've been working on lithium alternatives, but that stuff.
Mike, always a science enthusiast, seemed to yearn for the lab despite his busy schedule. I admired his never-ending pursuit of learning. Now he was offering me to be his successor. It was flattering, but also daunting. I am not directly involved in research and development, but as I have been in the quality control and assurance department for a long time, I had to thoroughly understand the products. I've been studying hard for that purpose. At first, I doubted a high school graduate like me could work alongside doctoral researchers, but thanks to senior employees and Mike, you patiently answered my basic questions without disdain. I learned a lot. Yet, the idea of suddenly taking on the role of owner was intimidating. Reading my concerns, Mike said,
You started knowing nothing, yet you've contributed to developing new products. You could learn to manage the business too.
Just could isn't enough to take on being the owner. The thought of potentially ruining the company as its owner terrified me.
It'll be fine. With the parent company overseeing the group, they can provide immediate support if needed.
Mike reassured me confidently, but I was still far from convinced. Entrusting such a crucial company to a greenhorn like me seemed insane. I managed to decline then, but Mike was not one to give up easily. Indeed, a man who has spent a long time achieving his dreams has a different kind of perseverance. For a while, I thought I had enough of fine dining, as I was taken to various delicious places and persuaded to become the owner. That day, I believe we were at a steakhouse. Sitting in front of a tempting steak, I finally caved in and told Mike, "All right, I'll take the job."
Really?
Mike almost jumped out of his seat with excitement. "But I have one condition."
What is it? Tell me anything.
I told Mike that I needed time to learn about management from scratch and ideally wanted 2 years for a proper transition. He had planned to retire within a year but was still in good health, so after some persuasion, he agreed to my terms. That night, Mike drank more than usual, seeming elated that I would be his successor. He starts telling old stories with a happy look on his face. One of them was about when I, as a middle schooler, came to him wanting a job and how he was impressed by my maturity and decision to work for my sister's sake. He was surprised that instead of saving for my own college, I chose the riskier path of sending my sister to college.
Making decisions and taking risks are both qualities a loner needs.
Why didn't you say that earlier? Had I heard this sooner, I might have been more inclined to accept the owner role earlier. After the 2-year transition period, I officially became the owner. It felt unbelievable that a student who started as a part-time worker while in high school eventually leads a large battery manufacturing company. But this was the responsibility Mike, who had been like a parent to me, entrusted to me. I am now committed to working for the benefit of our employees. I contacted Mike because I needed to change the company's main bank for personal reasons. He readily agreed, and that's why I called the bank. The bank's manager and the branch manager quickly showed up. It made sense given the account held about $200 million. I knew the account closure wouldn't be simple and would take time. I had to get help from the finance department for the procedure. I feel sorry for increasing the finance team's workload, but this was the only method I could think of. I explained to the bank representative, who looked pale, how we ended up canceling. When I inquired about the employees named Theo and Ellie, I was told they work at a nearby branch. Since it falls under the jurisdiction of the main branch, I had them called in. They arrived promptly. They were starkly different from their late appearance at the dinner. "You're early today," I remarked, unable to resist a bit of sarcasm, observing their clueless expressions. Upon seeing me, they began trembling.
What is the meaning of this? Or should I say,
You two have shown great disrespect to President Noah.
The branch manager was furious.
we didn't do anything. President Noah, did you say?
Yes, I'm Caitlin's brother, Noah. Last time we met, I didn't even get to introduce myself before getting drenched in champagne. The branch manager gasped.
You did what to President Noah?
We didn't know he was the president. We thought he was just a poor high school graduate without parents.
Don't speak so rudely.
As the branch manager scolded, Ellie continued.
Sorry, but that's what we heard from our son. We didn't know he was the president.
Henry had probably only mentioned me as the brother who lost his parents in an accident and raised his sister by working straight out of high school. I was struck by how perceptions can change so drastically. Henry was crying, apologizing to me and Caitlin. Are you really okay with being such parents to him? I finally expressed what I had been wanting to say.
Don't you dare talk about our family. Henry should marry a girl from a better family.
Has Henry ever said that's what he wants? Despite growing up with parents who judge people by their money and background, Henry turned out to be such a good person. He must have struggled a lot because of you. All I want is for Caitlin and Henry to be happy. Seeing Caitlin and Henry's pained expressions the day before still haunted me. I can only do so much, but I hope it helps them live without regrets.
What right do you have to act all high and mighty? What do you know about Henry anyway? You're just a president of some soon-to-fail small company, right?
Yeah. And I bet that account isn't even worth much, right, branch manager?
As they continued to berate me, the branch manager raised his voice.
Enough already. President Noah is talking about closing a $200 million account.
$200 million.
It can't be.
Both slumped to their knees, looking up at me in disbelief. They were the kind to judge people by money. It's no surprise their hearts broke at the amount. Branch manager, given the circumstances, I'd like to proceed with the account closure. I don't need the full amount immediately, but let's start the process, please. Seeing the rude behavior of Theo and Ellie, the branch manager must have realized he couldn't persuade me otherwise. He sagged his shoulders and said, "Understood." Then he left, dragging the ashen-faced Theo and Ellie with him. Since then, they were ousted from their original department and demoted to a less influential position due to the significant losses. They also face salary reductions and have been kept at a distance by other employees, or so I heard through the grapevine. Henry eventually told his parents he would no longer contact them. He refused any further assistance and announced his marriage to Caitlin. Despite Theo and Ellie's objections, Henry left without revealing his whereabouts.
Noah, hurry up.
Wait, I'm coming. Today is Caitlin and Henry's wedding. With a clear blue sea as the backdrop, the photographer is ready. The ceremony is intimate, attended only by a few friends who are aware of our situation, and me, her brother. Caitlin's pure white dress stands out beautifully against the blue sky and sea. There, I see their happy smiles. A bouquet of red and yellow colors flies towards the bright sun. As I squint at the dazzling light, the bouquet lands in my hands. Even though Caitlin's friend was also close by, prompting a sheepish sorry from me.
Noah, read the room.
Caitlin chides, making me sheepishly scratch my head. I know it's pointless to think about it, but I wish our parents could have seen this. What would they say, seeing Caitlin so beautiful and grown up, knowing only her as a little 6-year-old? I imagine them saying, "You look beautiful, we're so happy," and laughing with us.
Noah.
Overwhelmed by the beauty of the sky, sea, and Caitlin, her voice pulls me back.
Thank you.
Somehow, I heard our parents' voices in hers. I looked down, unable to hold back tears. I tried not to cry, but tears streamed down uncontrollably. Feeling a hand on my back, I heard a voice.
Thank you so much.
Seeing me cry, Henry couldn't hold back, and we ended up crying together. Watching us, Caitlin wasn't crying, but laughing heartily. Her laughter made me so happy, and I cried anew. Their joyful laughter echoed on the white sandy beach for a long time.
My name is John Smith, a 55-year-old man. I work long hours every day, from early morning until late at night. Most household responsibilities fall to my wife, and I feel sorry about that. But there are things at work only I can do, and I feel a lot needs to be done, so my company has become like a second home. I pretty much just go home to sleep, but my wife never complains. I guess I owe her a nice dinner for our next wedding anniversary. She's been handling the house all this time and had put burden on her a lot too. But thanks to her, I can work so hard. Job hunting season is just around the corner. Our company, Walk Walk Confectionery, is eager to recruit talented people. During this season, the HR department is super busy with their regular work plus recruitment. They're all working their tails off, making documents and such. Creating handouts and slides for presentations for job hunting students seems tough. As a well-known large corporation, we attract a lot of applicants. Our company is popular among students, so many are eager to join. We offer good benefits, and the starting salary for college graduates is about $2,800 a month, which is significantly higher than many other companies. Even graduates with advanced degrees rarely start over $2,500, so our offer for undergrads is exceptionally good. That's why our info sessions are large-scale, often renting out big halls. Not only HR, but also our sales department staff often speak as senior employees at the sessions. The product development folks explain in detail about what kind of candies we are popular and how they are flavored. The students listen attentively and take notes diligently. They all look so smart. Then, HR's recruitment activities kicked into high gear. I glanced at the resumes, and they were all from top-notch universities. Only students from prestigious universities are present. For example, students from national universities like T University, and from private universities like K, W, and J universities. I never went to college, but I imagine these students must have worked incredibly hard to get there. I mean, their SAT scores are all above 1400. I learned about these standards as an adult and realized how tough it is to score above 1400. I probably wouldn't have scored even 1000. My high school wasn't great and nobody really went to college. Plus, my family was dirt poor, so I couldn't have afforded going to college even if I was smart enough. We were a big, poor family living in a rental house, 5 siblings including me. My dad hardly ever worked. He mostly spends any money he made by a temp-day job on gambling. He was the kind of person who would either be at a casino or a jog racing track. So, after graduating from high school, I worked to support my siblings. I was the eldest brother and wanted them to get an education. While thinking about all this, I went through the documents. These students probably never had to struggle like that. Sure, they worked hard for their educations, but they didn't have to struggle for their families. Getting into a national university like T University usually means coming from a wealthy family that can afford tutoring. And if it's a private university, the family is definitely well off. It made me feel a bit miserable, so I stopped dwelling on the past. Then, the successful candidates joined our company. They all looked smart right off the bat. The new employees at the orientation were all dressed up in brand new suits. The suites weren't their recruitment ones, so they probably ordered new ones. It felt like they were taking their first steps from being students to becoming working adults. A guy named Brown, representing the new employees, gave a speech. He passionately talked about what he wanted to do in sales. His ambitious face looked so dependable. I'm glad to have such enthusiastic young people joining us. And then there was a woman named Davis who also gave a greeting. She said she wanted to work in development in the science department. Whether Brown and Davis get into their desired departments is uncertain, but usually their preferences are considered. Right before this orientation started, I was working in the company's factory. So I rushed over wearing my work clothes. I was the only one in work attire, standing out quite a bit, and I heard comments like, he's so dirty, and is he homeless or what? True, my work clothes were filthy. From fixing machines used for candy packaging, I was covered in grime. But did they really need to say that? I didn't come in dirty clothes on purpose. I just didn't have time to change. I thought it was better to show up on time as is than be late. When I was about to go on stage, Brown and Davis started giggling. Then they bombarded me with unbelievable comments.
Wait, what? You comes to an orientation looking like that? I thought some homeless guy wandered in. You're so dirty and stinky. Eck, the smell is horrible. Disgusting.
Yay, I thought he was homeless too. Why is there someone in work clothes here? We didn't join this company to talk to bottom-level workers. We, the chosen elites, wouldn't bother listening to a lowly worker.
Right, I graduated from K University.
And I'm from W University's science program, even finished grad school.
So, we really need this person in work clothes to leave. It's smelly. Please go away. Can't stand the stench of work clothes.
But
Goodbye, low-level worker.
The hall went silent. I stepped down from the stage and decided to leave. Was it necessary to go that far just because I was dressed dirty? I might have been at fault too, but thinking about their faces just irritates me. Even if they are elite university graduates, it's a waste if they have such twisted personalities. What's the point of education then? To look down on others? Surely not. They went to university to learn and become useful to society in the future. Their parents would cry if they knew how they turned out. Maybe their parents have twisted characters too? If that's the case, they can't be saved. The next day, I unusually dressed in a suit for work. I don't usually wear a suit, but I had an important appointment today. Feels kind of stiff, thinking that I headed to the office, planning to start work. But first, I had something to discuss with the new employees. I needed to speak in front of everyone, so I had been practicing in my head repeatedly. I'm a bit shy, so I didn't want to embarrass myself. Well, where should I start? Ahem.
Well, the dirty old man from yesterday is in a suit.
Dressing up in a suit doesn't change anything. What's he thinking?
Brown and Davis were giggling at me again. I started to feel embarrassed and could feel my face getting red. So I'd like to talk about work. First, about me.
Really? We don't care about your story. We didn't join here to listen to some dirty old man. You think you look better in a suit, but did you forget about yesterday? Coming to an orientation in such dirty attire, totally out of place. Seriously, what were you thinking?
Exactly. Never thought we'd see someone so dirty here. You might look decent today, but you're just a dirty worker, right? We don't care about your story. We really don't want to listen to a bottom-level worker like you. Please leave.
But I have something to say.
Why should we listen to you? Are you underestimating us elites? This is why I can stand people from the bottom. They just don't get it.
Right? Typical of the bottom, not listening to others.
Then the department head and manager turned pale. The head said,
What are you saying? Aren't you the ones not listening? This man is our CEO.
Wait, what? The CEO?
How could this be?
What were you thinking, saying such things to the CEO? Saying he's dirty? How could you say that so easily?
But yesterday, he came in dirty work clothes. Anyone would think he was just some factory worker. I've never heard of a CEO wearing work clothes.
Exactly. No one would think someone dressed like that was the CEO. It's not our fault. It's misleading for the CEO to dress like that.
I'm really disappointed in you too. You graduated from prestigious universities and have excellent grades. I thought you'd be impressive inside and out, but it seems your characters are twisted.
But well,
how could you say that?
Johnson, the department head, stood up for me. Then Miller, the manager, also expressed his indignation towards Brown and Davis. However, Brown and Davis showed no remorse. I had hoped they would change their attitude once they knew I was the CEO, but unfortunately, that wasn't the case. Instead, they blamed me for my misleading attire. I admit that my appearance in work clothes probably didn't make me seem like a CEO. There's a stereotype that the head of a large corporation wouldn't be caught doing manual labor in overalls. Maybe in a small or medium-sized business, but not at a top company like Wak Wak Confectionery. No one would have guessed that the CEO would be dressed like that. It seems Brown and Davis aren't very remorseful. They don't think they did anything wrong.
You're right, they're not repentant at all. They probably don't want to admit they're wrong, as it would be like acknowledging a failure. Anyone can make mistakes, but if they had just apologized, maybe they could have been forgiven.
Let's have them do that task.
The special task?
I think that's a good idea.
What are you planning to make us do?
You're not going to make us do something scary, are you?
It's nothing scary, just an exciting job. You'll start by making candies. Just try your best, it's really fun.
I wanted sales, but I guess I'll do it. It's probably easy work, right? I might fall asleep. I'm bored already. After all, I can handle anything. I'm an elite.
I might fall asleep too. Probably some boring task like packing candy boxes or breaking eggs.
Come on, follow me to the factory. We'll provide you with aprons and hats, so please use those.
Heck, going into a factory feels so low class. Training here, really, if my parents knew, they'd be so disappointed. I mean, I graduated from K University, and now I have to work in a factory.
I graduated with science degree and now I have to work inside a factory. It's surely boring.
Stop complaining and keep up. We just received a big shipment of raw materials.
We'll help out too, boss. That product will surely be a hit.
Really? That's great. Everyone usually hates it. Brown and Davis looked a bit tense, probably wondering what they were about to be put through. We entered the factory. We put our aprons and hats and carefully disinfected our hands and put on rubber gloves. I brought out a box containing today's raw material. Crickets. They were dead, of course, but when Brown and Davis saw the massive amount of crickets, they screamed.
What is this?
UW. Gross. There are so many.
These are for our cricket crackers. As food shortages become a bigger issue, our company is researching insect-based foods. You know the famous brand The Simple is Best has been selling cricket crackers, right? I tried them and thought they were pretty good, kind of like shrimp crackers, but with a unique taste. So we're working on improving them. Here, try this prototype cracker I just made. How is it? Please, have a taste. I offered them freshly made cricket crackers, but both Brown and Davis stubbornly refused to take them. I was a bit sad since I believed our crackers were tastier than the ones from the renowned brand.
How can you expect us to eat this? It's disgusting.
This is inedible.
But you know, crickets are being eaten all over the world now. They're a valuable protein source.
If we run out of other foods, we might have no choice.
Even then, I'd rather starve than eat something like this.
Well, if you won't eat it, can you at least help make today's batch of cricket crackers? Right, boss? We need to finish them today for shipment tomorrow, don't we?
Yes, that's right. Please, help us out.
No way. Absolutely not.
Come on, just pick up this crickets.
Ugh, gross. It's looking at me.
No, it's dead. It's fine.
Here, Davis, try this.
Oh, don't put it in my hand. Gross. Help me.
Brown and Davis screamed nonstop, eventually throwing the crickets away and running off somewhere. It was a shame. I wanted to give them the opportunity to help make our new cricket crackers. Young people these days are so delicate. They probably never played with bugs as kids. Growing up in a concrete jungle, that's understandable. Growing up in a rural area, catching bugs was a daily activity for me as a kid. I always filled a basket with various insects, and I even remember getting scolded by my parents when a praying mantis egg hatched at home. I wonder if kids these days still do things like that. Maybe that's why, as an adult, I'm not scared of insects. Sure, I hate those shiny black roaches, but crickets, they're kind of cute. Though calling them cute while turning them into crackers might seem a bit crazy in some sense. But considering the potential future food shortages, I thought it was important to develop a tasty and easy-to-eat cricket crackers. The prototypes I've been working on are even more delicious than others on the market. It might sound like I'm tooting my own horn, but they're closer to shrimp crackers in taste, crispy, and easy to eat. If you close your eyes while eating them, you wouldn't guess they're made of crickets. After all, they don't look anything like their original form, so there shouldn't be much aversion. In fact, the cricket crackers sold by the major brand The Simple is Best are popular and look like peppered crackers.
They ran off. It's a shame. They could have been part of this new product launch.
Well, they probably learned their lesson. They were so arrogant, but by the end, they looked like they were about to cry.
Did we go too far? Well, it wasn't harassment. Anyway, we planned to have some of the new employees help with the cricket crackers, so it worked out.
They might be crying in the bathroom right now.
So delicate, getting spooked by crickets. Well, we need to finish up quickly to meet tomorrow's launch. We'll help. Let's get to work.
But don't you have other tasks? Are you sure you can help?
Of course. You're betting the company's future on these cricket crackers, right? You've been working so hard to make them the next big hit. You don't have to do it alone. We're here to help.
Then let's start working, please. So, Johnson, Miller, and I started making the cricket crackers. As we worked hard, others joined in to help. And thankfully, we managed to meet the deadline for tomorrow's delivery. The finished crackers were crispier and tastier than others on the market, resembling shrimp crackers. I was confident these would sell well. Initially, there might be some aversion. But if someone starts spreading the word like, these crackers are surprisingly good, they could become a hit. With the internet, word of mouth spreads quickly. You never know what will catch on, so I decided to leave it to the customers' tastes. After finishing our work at the factory, we returned to the main office. I noticed that Brown and Davis were missing and assumed they had left, but it turned out they had quit. We don't want to stay in such a gross place. They had said, whether crickets are gross is subjective, but for them, it must have been traumatic. However, I had planned to have someone help with the task anyway, so it just happened to be them. It wasn't harassment, just a lack of fit. So, I decided to forget about them. But it made me wonder what they planned to do after quitting so suddenly. With that kind of mindset, they're unlikely to last anywhere. Nowadays, job hopping is more common. But usually, you need to stick it out for at least a year or 3 to make it meaningful. I was anxious about the launch of the cricket crackers. We had made so many. If they didn't sell, it would be a waste, not just of the crickets, but also of the efforts of Johnson and Miller. But to my relief, the crackers started selling well. They were placed in a variety store, and it seemed young people were buying them. They even posted on social media, cheap and great for snacks with alcohol. There are 3 flavors of cricket crackers: salt, curry, and tomato chili. That makes them more palatable than the simpler varieties from other brands. The salt flavor is akin to shrimp crackers, the curry flavor resembles curry crackers, and the tomato chili was inspired by tacos. They were a big hit because they paired well with alcohol. They sold so quickly that we couldn't keep up with production. I was there wearing an apron, diligently making cricket crackers. Additionally, our factory halts machinery every 3 days for maintenance. During those times, I wear work clothes because I get dirty with oil while thoroughly cleaning the machines. Regular maintenance is essential when handling food, as any contamination would be a major issue and could jeopardize the company's survival. All right, let's work hard on today's maintenance. We have to start production again tomorrow, so it needs to be clean. Let's start here, I said as I got under the machinery to begin cleaning. Despite regular cleaning, running the machines for 2 days straight does accumulate a fair amount of dirt. I meticulously clean to ensure we deliver delicious snacks to everyone. It's a tough job. Crawling in there can cause back pain, and looking up strains your neck and shoulders. Then Johnson, the department head, and Miller, the manager, came rushing in. What's going on? I wondered as I crawled out of the machinery, only to hear some incredible news.
Boss, listen to this. A major German supermarket wants to buy our cricket crackers.
What? Really?
Yes, it's Dostco Wholesale in Germany. They've contacted us about producing large packs for their warehouse-style stores. Isn't that amazing?
A message from Dostco. But why?
Turns out the chairman of Dostco was in Japan incognito recently with his wife for a vacation. During that time, they happened to buy our cricket crackers at a store and loved them. You've done it, boss. We're expanding into Germany.
I can't believe our cricket crackers will launch us into Germany. It's fantastic. We're going to be very busy, but we'll work hard together. We're with you all the way, boss.
Thank you. I never imagined cricket crackers would take us into Germany. This is all thanks to your support. Let's keep pushing and thriving together. I'm relying on you.
Yes.
Please count on us.
Our cricket crackers from Wok Wok Confectionery had been a hit in Japan, but I never expected an order from a major German supermarket. This supermarket, Das Co Wholesale, specializes in large quantities in warehouse-style stores. I had been to Das Co in Japan once. I remember going with my German friend to do a barbecue or something, and everything on display there was big-sized, massive cakes, large meat chunks, and huge bags of chips that seemed impossible to finish in one sitting. They wanted our cricket crackers bigger than those sold in Japan, so I needed to figure out the right size. I trusted Johnson to handle the market research and sizing. Johnson and Miller conducted market research for selling our cricket crackers in Germany. Cricket crackers weren't very popular there yet, but there seemed to be a latent interest in insect-based foods. However, many people, similar to Japan, had a strong aversion to them, so they suggested making the crackers more visually appealing with colors. German cereals, for example, are very colorful, with shocking pinks and blues. Germans seem to like colorful snacks. I decided to travel to Germany myself to do some research and get German snacks as a reference. I stayed at a luxury hotel called German Stay and tried various snacks I bought. They all have strong flavors. However, making the cricket crackers too flavorful, like adding cheddar cheese flavor, might lose their unique taste. That would be completely different from what the Das co-chairman had enjoyed in Japan. He liked the cricket crackers sold in Japan, so there must be a hint there. Upon returning from Germany, I brought a large assortment of snacks to our factory and shared them with everyone. Everyone agreed with me the flavors were a bit too strong. The chairman wanted something more authentically Japanese, so cheddar cheese or taco flavors probably wouldn't work. They're too German. I was pondering what to do when I noticed Johnson's plum-flavored tablets. Recently, he has been trying to quit smoking, and I guess he eats tablets occasionally when he feels the need. Seeing those plum-flavored tablets, I thought, this is it. That's it. How about plum flavor? Plum-flavored potato chips exist and it feels very Japanese.
Plum flavor could be slightly salty and easy to eat, maybe even popular for its sourness.
I never expected to get inspiration from Johnson's tablets. You are brilliant, Hoss.
It was just happened to be. So, plum flavor is settled. What about the other flavors? Simple salt is good, but for something more uniquely Japanese.
How about the soy sauce flavor? It's very Japanese and might be well received.
That's a great idea. Soy sauce flavor has that salty kick and should be popular. Actually, I have a foreign friend who puts soy sauce on everything after discovering it in Japan and loving its taste.
Interesting. Let's go with that. What should the third flavor be? We're planning to launch 3 flavors in Germany, so we need to decide on the last one.
Natto flavor. No, that's not right. How about sashimi flavor? No, that doesn't exist.
Sushi flavor. That's not quite right either.
That's it.
What? Sushi flavor? You mean the taste of sushi rice?
No, a seafood flavor. The taste of Japanese seafood. Japanese seafood is delicious, right? I'm sure this will be popular.
Well, what an unexpected turn. Our silly ideas lead to a flavor decision. You're truly an idea man, boss.
Oh, it wasn't just me. The hints came from Johnson and Miller. Thank you so much. You've really helped out. Now we can deliver our products to Das Co. And so, we developed plum, soy sauce, and seafood-flavored cricket crackers for Germany. When these hit the shelves at Costco, they instantly became a popular item. I was surprised that cricket crackers could sell so well in Germany. Johnson, Miller, and I were thrilled and became even more enthusiastic about our work. Our sales were on a steady rise, and the company was flourishing more than ever before. The German version of our cricket crackers started being sold at Costco in Japan too. At first, I wondered who in Japan would buy such large quantities, but they became popular for parties. Being healthy and a good source of protein, they were especially popular among health-conscious people. We are a confectionery company, but I always wanted to support people's health. Snacks can be a stress reliever and offer relaxation when eaten occasionally. However, overindulgence can harm health, so as the president of a confectionery company, I felt responsible for this. That's why I am satisfied with making healthy and delicious products. It was a company I started with a lot of struggles after graduating from high school. There were times when nothing sold, and I think I caused trouble for my family. But with support from those around me, I managed to come this far. Some people may insult me, probably judging by appearances. I'm often in work clothes, so they might see me as lowly. But for me, these work clothes are like battle gear. When I wear them to maintain our important machines, I feel ready to work. Tomorrow and in the days to come, I'll continue to be busy. Orders have been flooding in from countries other than Germany.
Yeah, even if you try to trouble us, it's hardly like you'll incur any losses with your funds. Oh.
The poor from lowly backgrounds are just unnecessary.
I sighed and performed a final check. Closing our account, okay?
Go ahead.
With a mocking tone. I'm sick of the way they're grinning at us, those eyes staring with a smirk. People who judge others by their background deserve a bit of their own medicine. Thinking this, I smiled subtly. My name is Sarah Parker, a 29-year-old office worker. I'm currently working while living peacefully with my mom. My father passed away from illness when I was a kid. He's young, but his chronic condition took a turn for the worse. My father, who ran various businesses, was always busy with work, out early and back late every day. Yet, he valued family time, and I vividly remember having fun with him on his days off. My mother and I were initially shocked by his passing. Still, my mother made sure to cherish the time with me to spare me from feeling lonely. Fortunately, when my father's illness was discovered, he had already secured enough funds for us to live on, involving his predecessors. Thanks to that, I was able to attend college, and both sets of grandparents, my father's and mother's, were very supportive of us. Especially my paternal grandparents, who lived nearby, doted on me a lot when my mother was at work or away. Even now, I return to both sets of grandparents for holidays like Thanksgiving Day and spend time together. I am who I am today thanks to the support of many people. To give back, I aimed for a state university and got a job at a major company. I had thought about working at the bank my father was supposed to take over, but he told me, "Do what you love. I've already left a bank to someone else. Don't worry about it." So I pursued my passion. While my home life was solid and I could devote myself to what I wanted to do, I had no interest in romance. However, now that I'm at a certain age, many of my friends are married with children. That led me to consider marriage, and then a certain encounter happened. Little did I know,
This encounter would lead to a major event.
Hey, Sarah, aren't you interested in romance?
It all started with a remark from a colleague at work. We've been close since we were fresh grads.
You know, I have an acquaintance who doesn't seem to connect much. He's well-educated and attractive. And Sarah, you've got great credentials too, so I thought, why not?
Really?
I've always thought this, but it's such a waste for someone as high-spec as you, Sarah. There are even a few people at work who've got their eye on you.
My friend has a wide social circle and always shares stories about different people. She's living with her boyfriend whom she met at a mixer and seems very happy. She's quite concerned that I don't have any romantic stories of my own. I've even talked to her about marriage before, which led to this conversation. A few days later, I was set up to meet a man named Michael Jackson. We met up at a cafe. While waiting nervously, a man approached me.
Are you Miss Sarah Parker?
Yes, hello, Mr. Michael Jackson.
Yay, nice to meet you.
Michael represented no expression as he looked at me. He gave me a once-over from head to toe. It felt like he was sizing me up, and I got a bit uncomfortable. Then he sat down opposite me and immediately started the conversation.
What do you do for work, Sarah?
I work in sales at a company. I've always liked interacting with people and using my opinions constructively, so I went into sales. It's rewarding, and I particularly love the moments when customers buy what I've promoted and tell me with a smile that they're happy with it.
What's the name of your company?
It's called Anderson Corporation. At my words, Michael took a breath and finally showed a smile, though not one that gave a good impression. Anderson Corporation, where I work, is quite a major company. It is doing great in terms of performance. I think our products are well trusted by customers. Since he asked, I decided to return the question. And what do you do, Michael? With a snort, Michael began boastfully.
I work at Sunrise Bank, where I'm a manager. Sunrise is a very big bank, you know. The work is complex, not something the average Joe can handle. But you see, my dad is the head of the bank, so I'm the successor. It's like I'm in a different league, you know.
His words made me feel uneasy. I was expecting a normal response, but his prickly manner made me uncomfortable. Sunrise Bank is indeed a major bank. I knew about it due to certain circumstances, but was surprised to learn Michael was a manager there. Wow, that's impressive. Sunrise Bank is quite big, isn't it? I flattered Michael on purpose. There was no need to sour the mood, and I thought this would probably be the last of our interactions. But I figured it was better than showing disdain. Pleased with my flattery, Michael's face lit up and he continued bragging about himself. Honestly, it was painful to listen to him the whole time. He listens to me occasionally, but eventually, he steers the conversation back to himself, saying unbelievable things about his lack of romantic prospects.
I'm actually pretty popular. But the people who come around just don't match my family background or education.
I had my doubts about his personality, but I figured if I declined to meet him through the friend who introduced us, I probably wouldn't have to see him again. So I was already mentally prepared for that. However, as time passed, he, still looking pleased, made a suggestion.
I'd really like to meet your parents, Sarah.
Oh, but we just met today.
That's exactly why. The excellence of one's parents is important. And if we're going to continue seeing each other, It's necessary, right?
I internally screamed. I have no intention of dating you. But he seemed oblivious to my feelings, and the conversation moved forward rapidly.
When would be a convenient time for you and your parents?
Well, I'd have to discuss it with my mom.
What about your father?
Feeling increasingly uncomfortable with Michael's intrusive questions, I struggled to keep up with his pace. Well, my father passed away when I was young. At my words, Michael narrowed his eyes. As I waited for his response, Michael just replied with "I see," and then fell silent, looking like he was lost in thought.
All right then, let me know when works for you. I'll work around your schedule.
But
Thank you. I appreciate it. Shall we head out?
Before I could finish, Michael stood up to leave. Talking to him feels like talking to someone from a foreign country who doesn't understand a word you're saying. I really didn't want to meet him again, but after exchanging contact information and him bringing up meeting my parents, I felt stuck. The disdain in his eyes when I mentioned my father's absence really bothered me. Ultimately, I was pushed into planning a next meeting with our parents. Explaining this, my mom responded with a wry smile.
Maybe he was just nervous because he hasn't had much luck before.
For nervousness, well, his way of speaking was odd.
But his parents are coming too, right? If it doesn't work out, we can decline then. I'm in.
Thanks, Mom. Sorry for dragging you into this. Apologizing with guilt, my mom just laughed it off.
It's fine. You shouldn't feel bad. Plus, it's Sunrise Bank, isn't it? I'm curious about it. So let's just see how it goes.
So, Michael and I arranged to meet up with our families. At that time, I had no idea that he had arranged the meeting for such a purpose. On the day, we arrived at the place specified by Michael. It was an upscale restaurant.
It's a big place, isn't it?
Yeah. Inside, our table was ready, but we were told Michael hadn't arrived yet. As we waited after entering, Michael and his party arrived a bit after the agreed time.
Sorry, we were delayed by traffic.
Nice to meet you. Thank you for coming today.
Michael's family entered and sat down without any sign of remorse, even if they're late. It really irked me, but since I didn't want to start a fight from the get-go, I decided to initiate the introduction. After the initial greetings and a little time had passed, Michael's mother, Janet, started speaking with a smirk.
By the way, where is your father? Is he coming later?
Excuse me? I looked at Michael, but he just snorted through his nose and said nothing. I had clearly told him previously that my father had passed away. Despite my saying he wanted to meet with the both family, I'm stuck here reluctantly, and Janet's acting like she has no clue about it. My mother quickly responded for me.
My husband passed away due to illness when she was young. So today, it's just me, her mother, in attendance.
My mother answered with a calm smile. In response, Janet exaggeratedly exclaimed,
Oh my, Sarah is from a single-parent family.
I was taken aback by her words. Despite having mentioned his death from illness, her tone was clearly malicious. Following her words, Michael's father, Samuel, made a remark.
Being from a single-parent family must have been quite hard, right?
But she graduated from a state university. That should count for something, shouldn't it?
Really? But still, she's from a single parent, right? Wouldn't it be tough to date her?
My mother and I could only sit in stunned silence at the conversation with Michael's family. Despite my presence, their remarks were unbelievable. As if belittling, saying that being from a single-parent family was a fault. Such words should not be said to someone you've just met. Anger boiling within me, I responded in a low voice. Excuse me, but my mother raised me with care after my father passed away. I owe my current life to her. And isn't it rude to speak so about someone's personal life, especially at a first meeting?
Sarah.
However, Janet burst out laughing at my words.
Give me a break. Rude. Isn't it more absurd for a girl from a single-parent family to think of marrying into a high-class home?
I'm not really into strong-willed women.
It was hopeless. The conversation was going nowhere. With a sense of dismay, I just looked at them.
I had expectations because you said you work at Anderson Corporation.
Well, considering you're to take on Sunrise Bank in the future, she might not really be up to your level.
The insults kept coming. I no longer had the will to listen, but I knew we didn't deserve this treatment. As I shook with anger, my mother glared at them fiercely.
Did you invite us here today just to look down on us? I heard about the other day from Sarah, knowing she was from a single-parent family. Did you enjoy insulting us like this?
I had never heard such a stern tone from her before.
Please stop making accusations. It was just a little teasing, wasn't it?
Nobody enjoys being mocked. Your remarks come off as nothing but sarcastic. Being ridiculed and expected to just listen is not acceptable, I said firmly, causing Michael and his family to look displeased.
Such audacity for just common folks.
Common folks, huh? All right, your attitude has made up my mind.
The Jackson family looked momentarily bewildered at my mother's words, but soon burst into laughter. They had a look on their faces like, "What can you do, huh?" My mother sighed and spoke.
Actually, we have some funds deposited with your bank, but I don't want to entrust our money to people like you.
Oh, really? But I don't recall the Parker name, so it must not be a significant amount. Right, it's probably not much to worry about.
Yeah, even if you try to trouble us, your funds won't cause us any damage.
We don't need poor people of lowly heritage.
Alas, my mother had left them one last chance to redeem themselves, and they squandered it. But oblivious to that, they continued to spout demeaning remarks. I sighed and proceeded with the final check. Shall we close the account then?
Go ahead.
With a mocking tone, the Jacksons smirked at us. Let's give those who judge others by their upbringing a taste of their own medicine. Thinking this, I smiled subtly. Are you sure? Then we will proceed accordingly. And let's just forget about this engagement.
Of course, we intended as much. The idea of a single parent's daughter marrying in is no joke.
Is that so? Then we will take our leave now.
My mother and I stood up.
Oh, don't worry about today's bell. It's too expensive for you, right?
Well, thanks anyway. With that, our meeting ended. Later, I made a phone call to a certain place. Weeks later, my smartphone was flooded with calls from Michael. Of course, it's to be expected and it's their own doing, so I have no intention of picking up those calls. And I blocked him immediately. A few days later, my grandfather contacted us.
In response to his request, my mother and I went to Sunrise Bank together. In the conference room, we saw the Jackson family with pale faces. Upon seeing us, Janet stood up quickly and approached us, apologizing deeply.
I am terribly sorry for what happened.
Without responding to her words, I just smiled and spoke. For what exactly are you apologizing? Janet bit her lip hard and trembled with clenched fists. And rightly so. There are too many instances that warrant an apology. That frustration is probably because they understand this. The reason this all came about was because of that day when I mentioned closing our account. Our personal account didn't hold much money. Closing it wouldn't have made a big impact. But my grandfather has a different story. My grandfather had been managing the inheritance my father left for us by depositing it at Sunrise Bank. And he's got a hefty amount of savings in his own account, too. If all these accounts, including my father's inheritance, were closed, the total would be around $700 million. So, when they mocked us, the decision to close them was made. More importantly, my grandfather was the former president of the bank. My father was supposed to take over, but after his early passing, the position was passed to Michael's father, Samuel Jackson.
I didn't know. I had no idea you were related to the former president, Sarah.
He said, looking around as if making an excuse. But that's irrelevant. Even if he didn't know, it doesn't change the prejudice they showed towards our family situation. They brought this upon themselves. So, you would have treated us differently if you knew we were related.
Hey, don't talk to my dad like that. It's your fault for not telling us from the start that your grandfather was the former president.
I have no obligation to inform someone else about our family matters, especially not to you. Besides, you were the one who proceeded recklessly, and have you forgotten how you ridiculed us? Unable to retort, Michael narrowed his eyes in frustration. You knew I was from a single-parent family, and all three of you belittled us. When I said we would move our money because we felt insecure with your bank, you were the ones who said, "Go ahead. We just did as you suggested."
But for just that.
It may be just that to you, but have you ever considered how it feels to have your family insulted?
A heavy silence fell. Janet was shaking uncontrollably, her face saying it was all too much, and Samuel looked downcast. But Michael still seemed unable to accept the situation. His face was full of dissatisfaction.
Tisk, getting all high and mighty just because we talked to you.
Michael remained unrepentant. At that moment, the conference room door opened. There stood my grandfather with a stern look. Seeing him, Samuel and Janet turned even paler and froze. Only Michael was glaring at me.
My granddaughter gave you a chance to reflect, yet it seems you only think of yourselves.
It's not like that, sir. This woman.
Watch your mouth. If you say more, you'll end up feeling even more miserable.
Michael, finally rendered speechless by my grandfather's words, is once again glaring at me. Then, as if a dam had burst, he shouted,
No way. You would think a single parent's relative would be the former president. You came to the meeting to mock me, knowing I was the future president.
Michael, shut your mouth.
My grandfather glared sharply at Michael, who was panting heavily. Michael seemed slightly intimidated by his gaze.
The future president, huh?
My grandfather then turned his gaze to Samuel. who visibly shrank under it.
I understand the desire to pass it on to your son. However, knowing now what kind of person he is, it's clear that continuing as president is out of the question.
But for something like this,
Samuel started to retort, but sat down again under my grandfather's stern look.
Still don't see that this something like this is the problem. Even so, I'm retired now. It's up to the board to decide. If you have something to say it to them.
We have recorded all the previous and current conversations. Don't forget this voice recorder will serve as evidence. I took out the voice recorder and pressed play in front of them, replaying the previous conversation.
Having that ready is underhanded.
I prepared it just in case. But remember, you forced this situation. At that, even Michael couldn't respond, and all three turned pale. My grandfather thanked us and said, "Leave the rest to me," so my mother and I left the room. In the end, my grandfather didn't move the funds, at least not officially. Samuel was removed from his position as president, and Michael was demoted. Perhaps his pride was too much because Michael resigned on his own. But my grandfather had influence in the finance industry, making it very difficult for Michael to find employment in the same field again. Whether he knew it or not, Samuel seems intent on working until retirement, but my grandfather said it would be tough for him both mentally and physically. As for Janet, who had wielded influence as the bank president's wife, she started a part-time job wanting to maintain her lifestyle, but given her personality, it didn't last long.
I'm really sorry.
It's okay. You didn't know, right? I only shared the whole ordeal with a friend who introduced me to Michael. She only heard about Michael through acquaintances and wasn't to blame. My mother had been concerned about the single-parent issue, but I'm happy now, and I'm grateful for the support from those around me. When I told her this, she laughed and said, "Thank you." After everything, my grandfather told me to visit him at home when things settled down. I'm truly thankful for his help in resolving this situation. It was tough, but I'm happy now, and that's what matters.
I have some good news for you.
Really? It's not about dating again, is it?
It's a friend of my boyfriend this time. He's definitely a good guy.
I'm not keen on dating for a while, but I'm satisfied with my life as it is. I want to continue cherishing the people who support me. And eventually, I hope to meet someone I get along with.
Aren't you, Paul? What's up?
Oh, congratulations on your occasion.
Thanks, but more importantly, it's my wedding day today, and I didn't invite you. Oh, right. Sorry. You must be cleaning here or something, right? My bad. Didn't mean to bother you during work.
It's fine. We're classmates, aren't we?
Hey, man, it's my wedding day. Never thought I'd run into you cleaning here, looking so miserable. Life's cruel, huh? Like heaven and hell.
Isn't it about time?
Yeah, sorry. My bad for making you feel miserable. Take care, and good luck with the cleaning.
My classmate, Marcus Brown, said that, and then left with a burst of laughter. I watched his retreating figure, feeling a deep contempt for him as he said such things on what was supposed to be the happiest day of my life. Little did I know that I was about to be shaken by a shocking truth. My name is Paul. I'm 32 years old. My dad's business went belly up, and we became poor when I was just 12. My mom started working part-time, and my dad filed for bankruptcy. Despite having lived a carefree life as a wealthy man's son, I suddenly found myself struggling to get by day to day. When I got to middle school, while my friends were buying games and enjoying extracurricular activities, I spent my time reading books at the library after school. I had dreams of joining the baseball or soccer team, but I couldn't afford the gear or uniforms. I was embarrassed by my simple sack lunches, so I ate them in the corner of the classroom, hiding the contents of my lunch. Seeing me like this, Marcus Brown, who had been with me since elementary school, started bullying me. Knowing my once affluent background, it seemed he found delight in my sudden downfall and shabbiness. Moreover, he was inwardly jealous of me. He enjoyed seeing me, once excelling in academics and sports and popular with the girls, become poor and decline, mocking me relentlessly.
Hey Paul, what's with your shabby lunch again today?
I ignored Marcus, who repeated the same taunts every day. It was endless. But my unresponsive demeanor only frustrated him more, and the bullying escalated. He filled my shoes with sand, vandalized my desk, and one day, I found flowers on my desk like in some school drama cliché. At first, the class seemed to despise Marcus, but gradually they started finding it amusing and joined in the bullying, increasing the number of tormentors.
Hey, poor guy.
Even those I had never really interacted with or barely knew started joining in, making me the target of typical middle school ridicule. There were countless incidents I remember. In the class, they threw away my stationery, made comments like something smells, maybe someone here doesn't have money and hasn't showered, and caused a big commotion. It was a mess. But I endured it. My parents were already struggling, and I didn't want to bring the problem of being bullied at school into our home. Besides, I kind of knew from reading books at the library that bullying doesn't last forever. It was just a phase. Once I graduated and entered the wider world, things like this would disappear. So, I focused on my studies, aiming to attend a prestigious college and land a good job to help my parents out. My support during those tough days was a girl who, like me, always sat alone in the library reading books. I wasn't interested in romance, and at first, I didn't notice her, but her name was always on the library card of the books I borrowed, so eventually, I couldn't help but become aware of her. She was named Rachel Johnson. Her name was impressive, so I remembered it quickly. Eventually, we noticed each other, borrowing the same kinds of books, wondering who would get them first, and gradually, we started exchanging a few words. She was the first to speak up.
You always borrow the same books as me, don't you?
Yeah, I guess.
Hey.
Yeah.
Why do you always endure it? You should just fight back.
I was surprised to hear her say that. Actually, I was embarrassed. She fully knew I was being bullied.
Yeah, but not everything has to be confronted, right? Ignoring it, the days just pass by.
Oh, you're quite philosophical.
Well, most books say that, don't they?
True that.
That's how she and I became friends. Though we didn't start dating, we began to walk to and from school together and talked about books in the library. Her presence was a great support for me. Honestly, being bullied or treated like a pariah, she was my only solace. And so, my middle school life continued, enduring the malicious group led by Marcus and those who joined in the harassment. But then, the worst thing happened. It became known that I was friendly with Rachel, and I became a target for their mockery.
Hey man, so you're poor and now flirting with a girl. Are you kidding me? You're acting all high and mighty. What a joke.
I remained silent. I thought getting angry would only bring her harm. But as I feared, it happened. Marcus started to bully, or rather mock, Rachel as well.
Hey Rachel, you like that poor? Oh, sorry, I meant Paul. Poor and Paul, they sound similar, my bad.
But she was tough, and talked back to Marcus.
Stop it, you guys are shameful. Even elementary kids don't bully.
Oh, what? Well, Rachel, I thought you were just a quiet, plain girl, but you're actually pretty annoying, huh? You guys are a perfect match.
Do you actually enjoy saying that? Doesn't it feel empty?
But as she retorted, Marcus and his cronies surrounded her. Smirking and peering into her face, she was clearly uncomfortable and creeped out. Watching this, I was about to lose my temper. I thought any guy who bullies a girl, especially as a man, is less than a worm. But I knew if I confronted Marcus or got angry, it would just escalate things. I feared she would become an even bigger target, so I held back. And then, heartbreakingly, I began to avoid her. The reason was simple. I didn't want to drag her into this mess. Thus, my only solace, our friendship, ended. And I returned to my lonely life. But I thought it was necessary. Succeeding, not breaking down here, I believed was the best revenge. I passed the entrance exam for a prestigious high school. My parents were happy, and I felt relieved, thinking I was finally free from my hellish life. But worst of all, Marcus had also passed for that high school.
Hey, you're going to high school. I thought you'd drop out.
But thankfully, by high school, there were no more childish people willing to join Marcus in bullying me. Sometimes Marcus would glare at me as we passed in the hallway, but that was nothing compared to the bullying in middle school. I worked hard, studying relentlessly, and eventually became the top student in school. Being number one in a competitive high school almost guaranteed a bright future. Marcus tried hard too, but his frivolous nature and hanging out with girls from other schools seemed to hinder his academic progress. I kept my focus, ignoring Marcus and doing what I needed to do. However, tragedy struck during my senior year of high school. My mom, overworked, fell ill and couldn't continue her part-time job. Our household budget, already stretched to the limit with penny pinching, became even tighter.
I'm sorry.
Don't be silly. It's not your fault, Mom. I'll work. So, I started working at a bakery after school in my senior spring, and also delivering newspapers in the morning. Of course, there was no time for sleep, let alone study. My grades plummeted from being the top student. My dad had shut down completely since then, occasionally taking day labor but mostly coming home with cheap alcohol to drown his sorrows. Regrettably, I had to give up the dream I had envisioned for the future. There was no way I could afford college. And now, I was the only one who could earn a decent income for the family. Driven into a corner, I gave up on further education and study, working desperately instead. I used to sleep during class. Actually, the morning paper route and evening bakery shift weren't enough, so I started doing piecework, like sticking labels, at home. Otherwise, we couldn't afford food or even pay the utility bills. I experienced a second downfall in life. Then, that guy Marcus came around again, seeming pleased to look down on me.
Fate can be cruel, huh?
Yeah, it can.
I think you were born under an unlucky star. But hey, give up, man. Maybe there's something good in store for you.
Marcus's sneering back was infuriating, but there was nothing I could do. Upon my high school graduation, I landed a job at a local factory line. Rumors said Marcus easily went on to college. There's a saying about parent lottery, and I guess I lost in that regard. But I hated to describe my dear parents with such a frivolous term. This was my fate, and I decided to accept it. And so, the days working in the factory just went on in a routine manner. Working at the factory, life became more manageable than juggling part-time jobs as a student. My parents, feeling guilty about me giving up college to work, became more united as a family. Especially my dad changed, quitting alcohol and saying, drowning in booze to escape reality gets us nowhere, and he started working in physical labor too. Thus, our family of 3 continued to support each other. Then one day, a letter arrived. Wait! The moment I touched that cute floral envelope, I knew who it was from. The handwriting was familiar. The sender was Rachel Johnson, my only friend from middle school.
Are you doing well? I've heard a lot has happened since then. But I believe you're doing your best. If it's okay with you, could we meet and talk sometime? We're like people from the past, aren't we? Not using WhatsApp or Instagram, but communicating through physical letters. But that's the only way I could find out about you, through the alumni directory.
Tears welled up as I quickly wrote back. Thank you. I do have a cell phone, though. I'll be waiting for your contact. And so, we reconnected through our phones and arranged to meet. When she showed up, she had transformed into a beautiful woman. We were both 20 years old.
Long time no see.
Yeah, long time no see. How have you been? That's when I noticed the quality of her dress and her upscale bag. Honestly, I have a keen eye for such things, probably because of my mom. After my dad went bankrupt, she had to sell most of her clothes and bags, but what Rachel had reminded me of the things my mom used to own. I wonder if she comes from a wealthy family, I thought. But regardless, I was just so happy to see her again. And it seemed she felt the same. Thus, we started to keep in touch again. Soon after, we fell in love with each other.
I feel like we're meant to be together.
I wanted to say that first.
Oh, sorry, I'll take it back.
No, it's fine, so let me ask properly. Will you go out with me? That's how we started dating. And I realized my hunch was right. She was indeed the only daughter of a well-known luxury hotel in our area. That's impressive, I had no idea.
Yeah, that's why I felt somewhat avoided in middle school, being the rich girl and all. That's why I was always alone.
I see.
The only friend I had during that time was you, Paul. Despite his interference.
He was, unmistakably, Marcus. According to her, he had ended up attending a private university in the city.
It's a relief he's gone from our hometown.
Indeed. We continued our healthy relationship for several years and got married as we both turned 30. As the Johnson family had only one child, Rachel, and no one to inherit the hotel, I needed to succeed the hotel business. But if it meant I could be with a woman I love and become part of her family, it wasn't a big deal. Thus, I entered the Johnson family, becoming the next president of the renowned hotel in our hometown. Some might call it marrying into wealth, but I never felt that way. I just really loved Rachel. Working at the hotel involved a variety of tasks. It wasn't just sitting in an office and stamping documents like in a regular corporation. I did everything from menial tasks to organizing events. If there was a politician's party, I helped set it up and served drinks with the staff. And if a cleaner was ill, I took the initiative to do the cleaning myself. I managed events, proposed dinner shows, mediated disputes among housekeeping staff. I did it all. In doing so, I wanted to prove that marrying the hotel owner's daughter didn't mean I was incapable. I earned the respect of all employees and my father-in-law. 2 years into working hard, an impactful event occurred. That day, we had a booking for a wedding and reception. It was for a marriage between a well-known businessman and a local TV station's female anchor. The banquet hall was vast, indicating a grand affair. So I knew I had to help. I also had a fan's desire to greet the anchor, who always appeared so polished on the news. The reservation was under the surname Brown. Though I had a bit of an allergy to that name, it was common enough not to worry about. The plan was for an extravagantly lavish wedding, with the highest quality food courses and decorations ordered from renowned city florists.
We might have a problem here. Our staff alone might not be enough.
Right. Let's call in some extra help. Thus, the wedding, costing about $100,000, was methodically prepared. For our hotel, this was a financial loss in terms of labor costs, but with such a large gathering and the rarity of such flamboyant events recently, we expected the guests would enjoy it immensely. The preparations with the bride and groom were progressing, but reports came in that they were incredibly demanding and difficult to please. The demands were endless, from changing the pre-decided attire because it didn't feel right, to asking if we could arrange the sound system for a guest singer they wanted to invite. Frankly, some staff members were fed up, saying, "We've had enough." But I was encouraging the staff to give their best for the hotel. Well, it's not just the bride and groom at this wedding, but also local dignitaries as guests, right? Let's think of them and give it our all. The hotel had faced tough times due to the entry of foreign hotels and epidemics, but we pulled through by sticking together. So we rallied once more. Then the big day arrived. The hotel was decked out in glittering decorations, and luxury cars arrived one after another from the morning. All of us employees worked desperately. Everything was going well. But in the midst of it all, a part-time girl we hired for help made a mistake, possibly due to her nerves. She stumbled while moving a large wedding cake with an experienced employee, causing it to sway dangerously. And, of all things, the cake ended up being destroyed. The girl, with her face turning pale, apologized, "I'm so sorry," and then ran off crying somewhere. There were only 2 hours left until the wedding. And we had 3 hours until the cake was needed. I immediately instructed the staff to clean up and called the bakery, hoping to somehow get a wedding cake ready in time. Hello, I'm really sorry to ask this, but is there any way you could prepare a wedding cake within 3 hours?
3 hours?
It was indeed a tall order to prepare a giant wedding cake in 3 hours. However, our hotel and the bakery had an inseparable relationship, with us ordering many desserts from them, so the owner said, "We'll manage something." We had to deal with these last-minute issues. I immediately went back to where the cake had collapsed. I fetched a cleaning uniform from the back, thinking we needed to erase all evidence of the incident. "I'll handle this. Everyone else, please return to your posts."
Okay, understood.
All staff except the girl who had run off crying were experienced restaurant servers. I thought it wasn't right to have them clean up the cake mess. After cleaning up most of it, I still meticulously wiped every trace of cream, believing no remnants should be left. While answering various wedding-related questions over the wireless headset, I polished the floors, desperate to ensure the ceremony went off without a hitch.
Hey, aren't you?
I turned around to find that Marcus was there. That unforgettable, unpleasant face. He seemed a bit better than before, but his condescending attitude and way of speaking hadn't changed.
Oh, sorry for interrupting your work. You're cleaning, huh? That stuff. You know, I'm getting married here today.
Is that so? Congratulations. I responded calmly. But Marcus didn't stop.
I wondered what happened to you. Occasionally, it crossed my mind, you know, how a top student like you couldn't go to college because of no money. It's quite a tragedy, isn't it?
I continued to clean the hallway in silence. Over the wireless headset, I heard, "Paul, a politician has arrived," among other inquiries from the staff. "Sure, guide them to the grand ballroom." I responded, not fully paying attention to what Marcus was saying. This seemed to annoy him, and he snapped, "Are you even listening, you high school dropout, poor guy? You're cleaning here today, aren't you? All thanks to my wedding, right?" "Yeah, that's right."
How much do you make per day? Around $60. Lucky you. You'll be eating well with that this week, huh?
I knew I couldn't afford to argue here. Time was of the essence. So, I just stayed silent and listened.
Well, life stuff, you know. I sympathize. Maybe someday you'll get married too. In a few decades, perhaps. When that time comes, make sure to invite me to the wedding.
Got it.
Oh, are you off to clean the toilets now? There'll be a lot of drinkers today, so give it your best shot.
In saying so, Marcus strolled casually toward the groom's waiting room. He was shaking his shoulders and laughing heartily, genuinely enjoying himself. It was pitiful to see him still saying such things to me on his wedding day, showing no signs of growth whatsoever. But it couldn't be helped. Changing others was difficult, so I knew I had to change myself. Just like I always had, I dealt with him calmly today as well. There was no point in arguing back with someone like him. I'd known that since middle school. And after a while, the hallway, which had finally been cleaned up after the cake fell and made a mess, looked presentable. Although we'll call in the professionals for a thorough cleaning later, we'll manage with this for today. Thinking so, I changed out of my cleaning clothes and into my usual suit. Then, with a Royal Metropolitan Hotel name tag into my lapel, I confidently returned to the venue. Today's guests included local corporate executives and politicians. As the bride is a local TV announcer, Sponsor companies that produce TV commercials are invited. I greeted those distinguished individuals. Then, those who have always used our place for parties and Christmas gatherings also returned my greetings. Thank you very much for always taking care of us.
Thank you for the other day.
Oh, no worries. Please continue to support us in the future. Since I thoroughly reviewed the service since I took over, our evaluation has skyrocketed. Anyway, it's important to treat everyone politely without changing attitude based on the customer. Even if we're busy, we must respond with a smile. If there's any dissatisfaction or concerns, they should come and tell me anything, even if it shows on their faces. We've been working hard to earn the trust of our employees and improve customer service. So even today, no matter who the guest was, even if it was Marcus himself, I was determined to give it my all in hospitality. After all, regardless of who they are, weddings are a joyous occasion. All right, everyone, let's do our best today. Counting on you all.
Yes.
With this, just before the main event, the staff rallied themselves. However, once the wedding started, as expected, there were complaints from the bride and groom about things being different from what they expected on the day, such as the hair and makeup not being done well, causing a ruckus. But the staff worked to calm them down and focused on making this day a success. And finally, the bride and groom finished changing and were ready to head to the chapel. Everyone breathed a sigh of relief, as this moment had finally arrived. However, at that moment, an unbelievable incident occurred.
Hey, why are you standing there, Paul?
Surprisingly, at the crucial moment of the bride and groom's entrance, he spotted me standing in my suit and came over to talk to me. Deep down, I thought it definitely wasn't the right time for something like that, but I stayed silent and responded just with a smile. Then, Marcus seemed to interpret my attitude as disrespectful, and he got furious and started complaining.
Hey, what's going on in this hotel? Why is a high school graduate janitor sneaking into the venue? Can't someone kick him out?
Everyone was silent, taken aback by his words. But Marcus didn't stop.
Hey, who do you think I am? I'm Marcus from Starlight Trading. Today, we're having such a grand wedding in this first-class hotel with a luxurious plan. Why is a janitor mixed in here?
I discreetly stopped an employee who was about to address him.
Hey, go get the manager of this place.
Marcus was menacing towards me.
Why is a high school dropout working here at the venue? Could I speak with the manager for an explanation?
I noticed the stunned looks around me and finally decided to tell the truth. It's me.
What?
I'm the manager of this hotel.
You're kidding, right?
Right there, Marcus grabbed me by the collar. Then, from behind, a voice with authority said, "Excuse me, sir. The president of this hotel, President Johnson, is my father-in-law." Rachel was also standing next to him, wearing a beautiful dress. When Marcus saw my father-in-law, he seemed to only understand that the person in charge of this hotel had arrived. Excuse me. What's going on with your hotel? How come a suspicious person is sneaking in like this? What about the security?
When you say a suspicious person,
It's him. Paul, the high school graduate. Why is a temp janitor here at the venue? It's ruining the wedding. Can we get a refund with responsibility?
The bride, who was also a TV announcer, seemed visibly flustered. Apparently, she looked like a dignified woman on TV, but she must have been embarrassed to have such a commotion on her wedding day. However, the president responded calmly.
Excuse me, sir. Did any of our executives do something disrespectful to you?
What?
Did something disrespectful happen?
Disrespectful? Well, let me tell you then. With my connections and my wife's network, we've gathered such distinguished members for this wedding. Why is this guy here? Just his presence alone is disrespectful.
His words echoed in the now silent venue, and everyone looked bewildered. The so-called distinguished members mentioned by Marcus had heard his outburst. Then President Johnson said, "I see, we are sorry about that. Let's have him step away for a moment." He signaled me with his eyes. So, I ended up leaving Marcus's wedding venue. I couldn't help but wonder what would happen next. He seemed to be more upset. From there, it seemed like chaos ensued. Apparently, Marcus went berserk when he found out that I'm marrying the heiress of the Royal Metropolitan Hotel and the future president of this hotel. He was heard shouting, "Why the heck? He's just a high school graduate, pool guy." Furthermore, the presidents of his company's business partners completely witnessed Marcus's vulgar and discriminatory remarks. Among them, what stood out was when the president of his company said, "I'm sorry, but I'll take my leave first," and actually got up from his seat and left the venue. After the president left, naturally, the big shots like executives and other important people followed suit. At that point, Marcus completely realized the cold glares around him, but it was already too late. The front row table seats are now empty. The MC, who was a colleague of the bride and also a TV announcer, awkwardly tried to proceed with a wedding and somehow manage the situation, but guests kept leaving one after another in a hurry. Gradually, those who had come to exchange greetings at the venue rather than for the wedding itself lost their purpose. It was as if they were saying there was no point in being here anymore, yawning or getting up to smoke cigarettes. One by one, people left the venue, some saying they just needed to make a quick call but never returning. The wedding was a major failure. In the end, only the staff and a few of Marcus's cronies were left in the venue.
Hey, what's going on here?
Well, you see, I'm not quite sure myself.
What on earth are you talking about to Paul, the vice president?
The vice president Paul? You mean that Paul?
Listen, you know how much our station anchor has been involved in hosting weddings at this hotel. When guests come from the city, we rely on them for everything.
I know that.
And yet, why are you hurling insults at Paul, who is the future president of the hotel? It's unbelievable. How old are you anyway? You're not a child.
Well, I didn't know.
Not knowing is no excuse. Look, all the sponsor companies we've been so grateful to have, they've all left.
The venue was enveloped in a gloomy and awkward atmosphere.
What are we going to do?
What should we do?
Then, unexpectedly, he started sobbing. It seems that until now, he had been pretending to be a good son of a respectable family and had been wearing a mask, but his true nature shocked both his wife and her parents. You shouldn't marry someone like him. Fortunately, we haven't signed the papers yet, so the marriage is off. So in the end, they broke up. And it got even worse. With the marriage broken off and rumors spreading about his rampage at the wedding venue, Marcus was asked by his business partners to change his responsibilities one after another. Eventually, He felt uncomfortable at the company and ended up resigning on his own. Marcus, who had persistently bullied me and made sarcastic remarks, ended up losing many things he had worked so hard to build up in his life. To me, it seems nothing but foolish. But he brought it upon himself. Thus, this incident at the hotel became an episode that would be talked about for a long time. I once again wished to live a clean and righteous life. One day, while discussing the lobby renovation in the lounge with contractors, I noticed a man sitting alone, hunched over, in the corner of my eye. It was 2 p.m. on a weekday, a time when the clientele usually consisted of women or business-like individuals. The man, wearing a worn-out hoodie, jeans, with unkempt hair and an unshaven beard, stood out. However, without paying much attention, I continued the conversation, until the man suddenly turned to look in our direction. Our eyes met, and I stared at him intently. He returned the gaze with a resentful expression. To my surprise, it was Marcus, completely transformed. Though I had heard he had lost everything since then, the drastic change in appearance in just a few months was astonishing. I couldn't just leave the guy staring at me like that, so I said, "Excuse me for a moment," and ended the meeting to sit at his table. "What's wrong?" I asked. Marcus seemed unsure of why he had come himself, stuttering. He didn't seem to come to apologize or cause a scene. Perhaps he just returned to this place where he had lost everything. I sat there for about 5 minutes, but since Marcus remained silent with his head down, I decided it was a waste of time to stay and got up. "Sorry, I'm a bit busy, so I'm out." Then, as a last word, Marcus squeezed out, "Could you cover the cost of this coffee?" while trembling. I left without a word, holding the leather bill holder, and just said, "Give it your all." Marcus looked like he was about to burst into tears, but I knew I wouldn't see that face again.